whole of England could be put back into tougher restrictions as early as next week. The Prime Minister met senior cabinet colleagues yesterday to discuss tightening the rules in light of worsening coronavirus infection rates and hospital admission data.
And while no final decision has been made, it's thought there could be an announcement as early as Monday. The latest from Westminster shortly, but first, this report from our health correspondent, Ashish Joshi.
These pictures will terrify every frontline health worker in the country. Youngsters in Nottingham defying police, counting down until midnight, the hour that marks the start of the toughest Tier 3 restrictions. Nottinghamshire now joins a growing list, vast swathes of the country where infection rates are accelerating. COVID hospital admissions here are 40% higher than they were during the peak.
It's about the whole community, and for that reason I'm urging everyone across Nottinghamshire to get behind these measures.
The government was warned by its panel of scientific advisors, SAGE, this month that COVID infections and hospital admissions were exceeding the worst-case scenario. SAGE documents dated the 8th of October say well over 100 new deaths per day are projected to occur within 2 weeks, and that's even if strict new interventions are put in place immediately. But on the 22nd of October, the UK recorded 189 deaths. That number is even higher, with 274 deaths recorded.
Sadly, it really goes to reinforce what I've thought for some time, really, that the current controls that we have in place are not sufficient to try to curb the outbreak, and really more action is needed in order to get this under control.
On the streets of Doncaster, there's regret but acceptance. This Yorkshire town added to the list of communities in the highest tier of sanctions.
From low risk, we are now on very, very high, which is it's not good. People are not keeping to the right procedure. They're not keeping to it. So the locking down is good.
Shut the whole country down and get it all sorted out. That might be the best way, rather than just still bitting and bobbing all the way around the country, because people just don't know whether they're coming or going, which is just a joke.
We've hacked it once, we'll be able to hack it again. It's hard with children and keeping kids in and everything, but we've just got to do it, follow the rules.
As leaders across Europe move their nations towards some form of national lockdown, Boris Johnson insists on a tiered regional response. But with infections spreading and hospital admissions rising, that might not be enough. Ashish Joshi, Sky News.
Well, here's the reason why the government is so concerned. Now, latest figures show 24,405 people could have tested positive for COVID-19 in the UK in the latest 24-hour period. There have been a further 274 deaths within 28 days of testing positive, which brings the total number of deaths to 46,229.
Ali Fortescue's in Westminster for us this morning. So is it looking likely then that a national lockdown is on the cards?
Well, it's hard to know for sure, but Whitehall sources are definitely telling us that this is something that's being looked at, that the government are looking at tougher restrictions across the board in England. It hasn't been confirmed by Number 10, but we understand that this weekend there are conversations happening at the very highest level, the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, the Health Secretary and Michael Gove, looking at whether this could come into force as soon as next week. It is a marked shift. The Prime Minister has long talked about his local version of restrictions, this tiered system as being the right way forwards. He's long said he's tried to tread this middle ground between helping the economy and helping people's health. Of course, he has had a lot of pressure from his own backbenchers, some of whom feel he's already going too hard. Pressure too from Labour, who've called for a 2-week circuit break. But what we've seen this week is a shift in Europe. We've seen France and Germany moving in a more national direction. We've seen seen these stark scientific warnings, and you heard there from our health correspondent the SAGE documents yesterday warning that we are already exceeding the worst case scenario in terms of how quickly cases are rising. And we've heard the warnings before about the numbers of deaths in the second wave exceeding the numbers of deaths during the first wave, the warnings about the healthcare system being overwhelmed. We've heard a lot from the government before saying that scientists are there to advise and ministers are there to decide where it looks like some of those very difficult decisions are going to be dealt with by the government this weekend.
OK, Ali, thank you.
Now, also this morning, the search is